important issues and current affairs for today. Today is August 14th. Today we observe as Partition Horrors Day. As we all know, on August 15th, 1947, we got independence. Just before a day of independence, just before one day of independence, we observe as now. Recently, our government started observing as Partition Horrors Day. Why? The reason is large scale violence erupted during Exodus, communal clashes erupted. So, partition and independence, they have almost come together for India, and we have had very bitter experience with respect to partition. For that reason, we observe August 14th as Partition Horrors Day. And next important thing, which is also useful in polity and IGP, integrity of India's electoral process. Integrity of India's electoral process. Opposition leaders, including Rahul Gandhi, leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, 2 days back, he got briefly detained by the police as they tried to march towards the headquarters of Election Commission of India. As you all know, India is the largest democracy, and in every 8 voters in the world, 1 voter is from India. In fact, in 2024 elections, around 66% votes were polled in India. It's the world's largest election, I can tell you. And recently, our opposition leader in Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, cited electoral data with respect to Mahadevpura, a part of Bangalore Central Parliamentary Constituency, where he is accusing that more than 1 lakh votes were manipulated, including duplication of voters, invalid voter addresses, bulk registration of votes at a single location, and 80 people registered in a single address in Mahadevpura. 80 people registered in a single address in Mahadevpura. Election Commission have said that the allegations of Rahul Gandhi were absurd, and the Election Commission has demanded that he either submit a signed declaration under oath or apologize to the nation. Rahul Gandhi's allegations have led to the big uproar, and you all know that in November 2025, coming after 2 months, we have elections in Bihar. 65 lakh votes, almost 6.5 million votes were removed in the draft voting list. So, Bihar draft rolls have wrong photos, and they also include dead people. And 124-year-old voter name was also found in the draft electoral list of Bihar. 124-year-old voter's name was also found in the draft electoral list of Bihar. But Election Commission is telling that all this news is factually incorrect. All this news is factually incorrect. I can tell you 2-3 important things with this respect. One is, Election Commission of India is a constitutional body. It has a constitutional mandate under Article 324 to maintain electoral rolls. It has a constitutional mandate. Second thing, Election Commission of India is an important bulwark of democracy. It's a bulwark of democracy, and it should maintain and carry the trust of the people. Most importantly, Election Commission of India is not immune. It should maintain and carry the transparency and accountability. And more importantly, Election Commission of India should verify properly, with proper investigation, the accusations made by the opposition parties. And more importantly, Article 326 of the Indian Constitution, where universal adult franchise is a constitutional right. Every citizen of India who is above 18 years of age, irrespective of race, religion, caste, creed, and sex, should be allowed to vote, should be given right to vote. And the idea behind this right to vote, universal adult franchise, the founding fathers of our Indian democracy, freedom struggle, and our constitution, Mr. B.R. Ambedkar, one man, one vote, irrespective of caste, creed, everything. So it is his dream to guarantee vote for everyone, irrespective of any discrimination. And Mahatma Gandhi is a strong votary of adult suffrage or adult franchise. If you could not provide the basic or minimum right to vote to the Indian, and if there are lot many discrepancies and manipulations in the voters list, definitely it is a blot on democracy. Democracy is all about, according to Winston Churchill, A little man going to the little polling booth with a little piece of paper and pencil, giving a little tick. Though it looks like very simple, but it's a public mandate. According to John Locke, the relationship between the governors and governed is based on trust. If the trust is broken, people have every right to break away from the contract. How do they can break away? Unless they have the basic voting right. This is a question that is being discussed in Parliament and also in various echelons in India today. Coming back, next important thing, which is again very important for everyone, is judicial integrity and transparency. So, as you all know, in India, we have independence of judiciary, which is a basic structure of Indian Constitution. Independence of judiciary, which is a basic structure of Indian Constitution. In fact, transparency is the backbone of democracy, and judiciary is not an exception to it, said by Justice Chalmeshwar in NJAC judgment, National Judicial Appointments Commission judgment. Even constitutional expert Glanville Austin also said that judiciary as a guardian of democracy should not be exempted from transparency. It should not be immune from transparency. Even Professor Glanville Austin also opined from that. See, judges removal and judges appointment, they should be highly transparent. Recently, you have seen the episode of Justice Yashwant Verma in March 2025, where we have found stashes, lot of cash in his house being burnt. And from last 4-5 months, the saga is continuing, and still there is no full stop for that. In fact, the Supreme Court of India appointed 3-member committee, and 3-member committee have given a report that he was involved in that transactions. And coming back, Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna wrote a letter to Prime Minister and President to remove Justice Yashwant Verma. Immediately he got transferred from Delhi High Court to Allahabad High Court. Now, I wish to tell you the process of judicial accountability and transparency with the example of Justice Yashwant Verma. First thing, in India, judges enjoy security of tenure according to Article 124 and according to Article 217. Article 124 and 217. They enjoy security of tenure. What do you mean by enjoying security of tenure? In fact, I can tell you, it's very difficult to remove a judge. Till now, no judge got removed. Till now, no judge got removed through parliamentary procedure. There were allegations, and before the removal proceedings completed, 2 judges resigned. One is Justice Ramaswamy, second is Justice Soumitra Sen. One is Justice Ramaswamy and second is Justice Soumitra Sen. Now, once there are allegations on a judge, then the motion can be moved either in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha. It can be moved either in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha. In either house, if it is Lok Sabha Speaker or if it is Rajya Sabha, the chairman. In either house, the chairman of the house or speaker of the house should order an inquiry. There should be an inquiry committee constituted immediately under Judges Enquiry Act 1968. Under Judges Enquiry Act 1968. So this is a very important point to be mentioned. In Judges Enquiry Act 1968, according to the Act, there should be a 3-member committee. First member should be either CJI or one senior judge of the Supreme Court. Second member should be Chief Justice of any High Court. Second member should be Chief Justice of any High Court. Third member should be a distinguished jurist. So, the Om Birla, our speaker, appointed a 3-member committee, and the 3-member committee is going to give report ASAP, as soon as possible. Already 146 MPs have given a proposal to the Speaker of Lok Sabha, including opposition MP Rahul Gandhi, BJP MP Ravi Shankar Prasad. They all have given a proposal to the Om Birla Speaker, and once the report is out, once the report is submitted by the 3-member committee, proceedings will start in Lok Sabha. If 2/3 members of the Lok Sabha pass that resolution, it will go to the Rajya Sabha. In Rajya Sabha, the judge have the right to appear and represent his case, address the Rajya Sabha. In Rajya Sabha also, if it is passed, the judge shall be deemed to be removed. But if he is removed through this process, he won't get any pension or any other benefits after retirement. If he dignifiedly resign, he will get pension and other benefits. And there's one more interesting thing about judge's resignation. Once a judge writes a resignation letter, there is no need to get an approval for it. On the day on which he submits his resignation letter, it is deemed that he is resigned. There's no process of, means you need not wait up to the approval. And second important thing, if the judge gives a resignation letter giving a post date, he can withdraw that resignation before that date, not after that. So there are many provisions. So for that reason, earlier, Justice Ramaswamy and Justice Soumitra Sen, both of them have resigned instead of they got removed by the parliamentary procedure. So till now, no judge got removed like that. In fact, informal sources are telling that Mr. Justice Sanjeev Khanna, CJ of India, have persuaded the judge, the Justice Yashwant Verma, to resign, but he did not relent. Now, parliamentary proceedings might start very soon on removal of Justice Yashwant Verma. Already 146 MPs in Lok Sabha have given a proposal for his removal to the Speaker of Lok Sabha. So, in this context, judges' accountability and transparency bill is in news. It is not passed in India till date. See, there is a system in IAS and IPS officers where they are expected to submit their property returns annually to the government before January 31st every year. So whatever assets you have, whatever liabilities you have, movable assets, immovable assets, you are expected to submit to the government. So it's a statement to the government. And if you purchase any new thing, you are expected to submit. Even if you purchase a new vehicle like car or a motorbike or something else, even a house, a small flat, you are expected to notify to the government. Whereas for the judges of the High Court and Supreme Court, there are no such rules. In fact, I can tell you, Supreme Court judges recently after this incident voluntarily started declaring their assets. Supreme Court the judges have themselves voluntarily have conducted a meeting on this, and they started declaring their assets in the websites suo motu. And earlier, it is not the case. Some of them used to declare, some of them never used to declare. But there is no rule in any way, there is no rule in any place that they should compulsorily declare their assets. There is no rule that they should compulsorily declare their assets. And the Judicial Standards and Accountability Bill 2010 requires judges to declare their assets. Lay down judicial standards, and establishes processes for removal of judges of Supreme Court and High Court. So they have to declare their assets, lay down judicial standards, and most importantly, judges are required not only to declare the assets and liabilities which are in their name, but also in their spouse and children. And the bill, the Judicial Standards and Accountability Bill, establishes the National Judicial Oversight Committee. It aims to establish National Judicial Oversight Committee, the Complaint Scrutiny Panel, National Judicial Oversight Committee, the Complaint Scrutiny Panel, and an Investigation Committee. And any person can make a complaint. Even you can write a complaint, I can write a complaint against the judge to the Oversight Committee on the grounds of his corruption or misbehavior. And a motion for removal of the judge on the grounds of misbehavior can also be moved in the Parliament. Such a motion can be referred by Oversight Committee also. And most importantly, complaints and inquiries against the judges will be confidential. And frivolous complaints will be penalized. So, see, Caesar's wife should be above suspicion. What do you mean by that? Just because you enjoy certain immunities, just because you enjoy certain freedom and autonomy or security of tenure or independence, that does not mean that you are not bound by certain things. Few years back, the office of CJI, the Supreme Court declared that the office of CJI will also come under RTI. The office of Chief Justice of India will also come under RTI. And most importantly, there are many issues that are flaring up in judiciary. A few years back, you have observed 4 judges coming out and conducting a press conference telling that, complaining that CJ is mastering the roster. And there was a sexual harassment allegation on CJI himself by his clerk. And that report have not come out. They said it's an internal issue. We will deal with it internally. And the other important thing is, I do remember Chief Justice of India becoming Rajya Sabha MP by nomination. The person who administered the oath of president was appointed by the president as an MP, was nominated by the president as an MP. Just understand. The person, the Chief Justice of India, who administers the oath of the president, was nominated by the president as an MP. And many of the judges are being appointed as governors also. So here comes a question: judicial integrity, their commitment and independence. Integrity, their commitment and independence. According to Article 124, Clause 7, judges of the Supreme Court should not practice after their retirement. If you have that clause, why should they become governors? Why should they become MPs? Is it morally correct? Is it morally correct? So, in a democracy, there are 3 wings of the government. All the 3 wings are subservient to democracy and should serve the democracy. No wing is above the democratic rule and rule of law. And former Chief Justice long back SP Bharucha publicly lamented, at least 20% of the higher judiciary is corrupt in India. I can tell some of the most corrupt institutions in India enjoy highest freedom and immunities. Unfortunately, judiciary have become one of it. It's a time to actually remove that blot on judiciary. Otherwise, social revolution and people's revolution is not far away against judiciary. So this is my answer for your question yesterday. One more point you need to add for that. Article 217 deals with resignation of the High Court judge. According to Article 217, a High Court judge may, by writing his hand, addressed to the President, can resign to his office. Article 217. This is an elaborate discussion on what I want to tell to you. The other important news that is coming up, Pakistan Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif said that Pak will not allow India to snatch even one drop of its water from Indus. Pak Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif owes to protect Pakistan's water from India, warning of consequence for any interference. A day after Pahalgam terror attack on April 22nd, we all know that India took a series of punitive measures against Pakistan, which includes putting the Indus Water Treaty of 1960 on hold or in abeyance. But Pakistan many times termed it as act of war. Putting Indus Water Treaty on hold, Pakistan termed many times as act of war. And Pakistani Prime Minister recently said, we are going to teach a lesson to India if India holds Indus water. Even recently, Pakistan Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari termed the Indus Water Treaty suspension an attack on Indus Valley civilization itself. And even recently, last week, Pakistan Field Marshal Asim Munir was in Florida, in America, and he said, Pak would destroy any dam constructed by India if it cut off water flow to Pakistan. So, and he also said, Indus River is not the India's family property, but Indus River is a mercy. Indus water is a mercy given to Pakistan by India, and without Indus, there is no lifeline to Pakistan. And Indus Water Treaty was brokered by World Bank in 1960 between India and Pakistan. Indus Chenab Jhelum will go to Pakistan, Satluj Beas Ravi will come to India, and India has every right to use the water. In fact, Indus River originates from India. Apart from that, tomorrow we are celebrating 79th Independence Day. On 15th August, happy Independence Day to you all. 79th Independence Day. And 5 countries that share the same historic date with India. Do you know that? 5 countries share the same date. Okay, Independence Day. Korea, North and South, liberated on the same day from Japan. Both North Korea and South Korea celebrate 15th August as their liberation day. It is the day in 1945 when the Japanese occupation came to an end after 35 years. Next, Bahrain. On 15th August 1971, Bahrain declared independence from Britain after UN survey confirmed that will of its people should be respected. Liechtenstein, a very small country, a very, very small country in the world. 15th August is not an Independence Day for Liechtenstein, but it is celebrated as official national day. Official national day. And other interesting fact, one part of French Equatorial Africa, the Republic of Congo, gained independence from France on the same day, on 15th August 1960. One part of French Equatorial Africa, that is in the Republic of Congo. The Republic of Congo gained independence from France on 15th August 1960. So, you have lot many celebrations on 15th August throughout the world. So, Uttarakhand Cabinet approves amendments to anti-conversion law. The Uttarakhand Cabinet approved amendments to the anti-conversion law to make it more stricter, harsher, with stringent provisions like punishment up to lifetime, punishment up to life imprisonment, and heavy punishments added to the new bill. And most importantly, the Uttarakhand Freedom of Religion Amendment Bill 2025 was approved in the state cabinet meeting by the Uttarakhand CM. So, it has stricter punishments for illegal religious conversion, provisions such as ban on propaganda through digital medium, and protection of victims have been added in the new bill. And good news for all of you, Union Public Service Commission set to begin celebrations for 100 years of existence from October 1st. The UPSC will be marking 100 years of its existence with a year-long series of events and activities. The centenary celebrations will begin on October 1st and continue until October 1st, 2026. So, this is very interesting. See, subsequent to the provisions of Government of India Act 1919 and the recommendations of Lee Commission of 1924, the Public Service Commission was first time established in India on October 1st, 1926. Later, it was named as Federal Public Service Commission in 1937 and it was renamed as UPSC with the adoption of Indian Constitution on January 26, 1950. So, you all know, I need not tell, Article 315 to 323 of the Indian Constitution deals with public service commissions, and UPSC is a prime recruitment body for the prime posts in India like IAS, IPS, not only for civil services, CAPF, geoscientist, assistant product and commissioner exam, and also conferred IAS interviews. All these things will be conducted by UPSC. It's a very big CDS exam. It's a very big recruitment body in India, premier recruitment body, which is maintaining its ethos and values from the beginning. So, UPSC needs to be applauded.